Good morning, good morning. Today, Bezrat Hashem, tonight is going to be the birthday of the Rebbe Rashab. So instead of having our usual class in Ma'amarim, I'd like to discuss a little the Chidush, the great novelty that the Rebbe Rashab brought to Hasidut, and what he brought to the world. The Rebbe Rashab is considered to be the Rambam Maimonides of Hasidut. He was born in the year 1860 and passed in the year 1920. He was the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the father of the previous Rebbe, which is the father-in-law of our Rebbe, and he was very, very holy, a very holy man at a very young age. Was already giving incredible teachings. And the particularity of the Rebbe Rashab is that he established a yeshiva. This yeshiva is called Tomchei Tmimim. It's the present Lubavitcher yeshiva that we have. And Tomchei Tmimim was established in the year Tafresh Nun Tet. And it was on Simchat Torah, he said, I'm going to establish a yeshiva. And this yeshiva, the students are going to be called Tmimim. They're going to be called wholesome. The wholesome students. What does that mean exactly? But before we go there, let's try to delve a little in his way of doing things. The yeshiva was particular because they would study 2/3 of the time. They would study in depth Nigle, which means the revealed aspect of the Torah, Pilpula shel Torah, which is the Talmud and the whole way of studying the Talmud. And 4 hours a day, they would study Hasidut. Now, it's the first time you find young men at the age of 14 and 15 sitting down in a yeshiva and already studying the secrets of Torah. It's like a wondrous thing. It's an epiphany, right, in the world of Torah that you should give access. And not only should give access, but you should do it within the parameter, within the yeshiva itself. We've heard in other yeshivot where they have half an hour, 45 minutes, a maximum of an hour of a musar shmuz, a discussion of musar. But to have 4 hours of in-depth study, what exactly is this for? What is the purpose? And what are we studying exactly? The Rebbe Rashab, from the year Samech Vav, Tafresh Samech Vav, which is 1906, if I'm not mistaken, all the way to 1908, for 2.5 years, he does what's called a Hemshech. He gives over a Hasidic discourse, and this Hasidic discourse goes on and on and on for 2.5 years, 3 years. Every week, the introduction.
One discourse?
It's basically every discourse is given every week with a different question, a different aspect, but it's a continuation of Ma'amarim, which are there to express in great detail and great depth and great understanding how God creates the world, and different Kabbalistic concepts, but brought down in a very practical way, with great depth, but at the same way, in a way that you can understand it and absorb it and actually internalize it, that it should become a part of your Avodat Hashem. As we know that one of the great parts of the service of Hasidut Chabad, Chokhmah, Binah, Dat, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, clarity, unity, is Hidbonenut, is to contemplate, to meditate on the greatness of Hashem. We know what the Rambam says in the end of the laws of Tshuva. Eno ohev el abedat she'yad'ehu, the love of God can only be cultivated by the one who knows God. And the more you know God, the more you'll have love. And therefore, says the Rambam, that you have to study the things that are going to bring you to understanding God. It's very interesting. The Rambam, on one hand, is a book of halakha, and with great depth in halakha and great clarity. And at the same time, he is a man of emunah, of faith. That's why the Rabbi Rashab as well is called the Rambam of Hasidut. Many times, it's the way that people understand emunah, faith, is that faith is something, just like philosophy says, where the mind stops, the intellect stops understanding, then faith starts. Hasidut Chabad is about bringing the faith within understanding, which means yesterday you told me that God is great. I have faith that God is great. God is almighty. I have faith that He's almighty. But practically speaking, what does that mean? So when in the Hemshech, in this continuation of Ma'amarim, of Hasidic discourses, the Rebbe Rashab will explain in great detail the whole concept of Yesh Me'ayin, how God creates the world from nothing to something. And just like when you throw a stone in the air, this new power in the stone to be able to defy its nature is active in it as long the power that I threw, the power of throwing, which is in the stone, is there activating this concept of against nature that's going up instead of falling down. Is there every second. You understand after you read the Rabbi Rashab's Ma'amarim, each one according to his mental and emotional capacity to understands how God brings the world in existence every second, but really the world is not supposed to be in existence. The only thing that really exists is God. It's one thing to say it and to believe in it. It's another thing to integrate it and study these concepts just like you would study a Talmudic concept. In the Talmud, you have lengthy discussions about two individuals, and one has an object in his hand and says it's mine, the other one says no, it's mine. And the Gemara, the Talmud will say, the person that wants to take it out of the hands of the other, he has to bring the proof. So what is considered a proof? What is considered? So you go into the details of the situation where they're witnesses, where they're not witnesses, and you can get carried along in this whole godly way of understanding practical life and disputes between individuals and forget God. Because you're too busy with your sechel. You need to use your intellect in order to go to what's called the svara, the reasoning, the rationale that brings to this conclusion versus this conclusion. And then you'll go in the other person's rationale. And then you'll compare both. And you can get caught up in Nigle de Torah, in the revealed aspect of Torah. And just like it says about the second Bet HaMikdash, Lo bichu b'Torah tchila, the first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because they did not recognize God in the Torah. How can you not recognize God? Because at the end of the day, the Torah yarda ve'itlapsha b'sechel enoshi. The Torah came and it clothed itself and lowered itself to the intellectual mind of a man, of a human. So, when it comes to the study of Talmud, you have the involvement of man's understanding in great depth, and the pilpula and the sharpness of the mind in order to analyze a reasoning and dissect it. When it comes to emunah, when it comes to faith, it seems that the sechel, the intellect, has to shut down and just believe. The Rabbi Rashab said, no. I'm going to make a yeshiva. I'm going to make a system where you're going to learn Chassidut like you learn Nigle. You're going to learn about God and about the processes of creation, so to say, and the service of Hashem as a result of understanding God in a greater way. Just like you study a sugya, a subject in the Talmud. And that's what we've been doing. We see sometimes we'll take a subject and, start understanding it. So what happens? Yesterday, I understood, let's say on a scale from 1 to 10, I understood God at the level 5, and from 5 to 10 was faith. Now that the Rebbe Rashab, in his extensive, very prolific teachings, gives me the opportunity now to dwell and understand certain things that I didn't understand before. The number 5 and up, 5 to 7, have now been integrated into my intellect. My faith is now from 7 to 15, if you understand what I'm saying. The level of faith grows with the more you understand. The more you don't understand is a higher level of not understanding. The more you believe is a greater level of belief because you've integrated the belief. Know the God of your father and serve him with a complete, whole heart. That's why the Rebbe Rashab called his students not Geonim, the geniuses, Gdolador, the great one of the generation, Tmimim, wholesome ones. What does that mean? Wholesome is to be wholesome in sincere and whole in your mind. You might not know everything, but what you know, you know. It's not about knowing everything. It's about absorbing the level of knowledge, whether it's in the revealed aspect of Torah or the Chassidut, the teachings of Chassidut, to absorb them in your mind in a way that you completely acquire them. Tamim belev, to be whole in your heart. You might not have the levels of love and fear, of course, of great people, of great tzaddikim, but the level of love that you have is consistent. It's not only during prayer you get all excited and after prayer, that's it. No, you maintain yourself at the level, the emotional level, because since your mind is filled with Hashem and you contemplate in prayer, you prepare yourself to that encounter, this magnanimous encounter we have every day, the zchut, the merit to be close to Hashem and connect. It continues on during the day. That love is a love that is burning. The pilot is there anyways. Even if the flame might not be, but it's equal to itself. Tamim b'maaseh. What does it mean to be whole in your actions? If I'm going to do something, I'm doing it fully. I'm not trying to find the kula. I'm not trying to find a loophole, Oh, here, I'm on vacation, I'm going to find a loophole. No. The same way I'm in yeshiva, the same way I'm at home, the same way I'm at work, in my actions, I'm whole. That's why we see something very interesting in this week's parasha. Said the life of Sarah, she was 100 years, 20 years, 7 years. So it says the same way their life was tamim, was wholesome. so too their actions were wholesome. What does that mean? It's not enough that they're tzaddikim. Well, you have to be wholesome. What's the wholesome? So it says concerning Avraham, Avraham Zaken, he was an elder, Baba Yamim. He came in his days. Which means that it's not only that you're wise, you're Zaken, and you know a lot. It's your actions. Every day, you are wholesome. You're filling yourself with however much you feel, you want to fill yourself. You're elevating yourself. You're elevating the world. And it's all at the same level. It's not I'm doing you a favor, I'm higher than you and, I'm going to teach you little. No. I'm doing it because it's the right thing. I'm searching to attach myself to Hashem. It comes out and comes up to basically the concept in Chassidut, the Alter Rebbe says, as a Yid niter will und niter ken sein Abgerissen von Elokus. A Jew does not want and cannot detach himself from Hashem. That is the state of mind. Whenever I'm going to do anything, if I'm not going to understand, if I'm not going to fully connect, if I'm not going to influence, I feel at this moment a disconnect, and I don't want to feel the disconnect. I remember when I was in yeshiva, sometimes I had thoughts coming through my mind. And sometimes, you have a desire to, you're human, you want to sin like everybody else. You want to do things which are not in accordance to Torah. So, your body wants, your animal soul wants, you don't want. So of course I spoke to my Rashi Yeshivot when I was not learning in Chabad. They gave me different, you have to put your hand on your forehead, you have to think Hashem is watching you, you have to think of the punishment, retribution, you're going to burn in hell, and whatever else is going to happen to your soul. Honestly, that didn't do it for me. Didn't do it for me. What did it for me was what I read in Tanya. In Tanya, it says over there, anybody can overcome his desire to sin be'omro al libo, by saying to his heart, eneni rotze liot rasha afilu sha'a achat. I don't want to be a wicked person. I don't want to be a rasha even for one moment. Why? Ki eneni rotze liot nifrad me Hashem echad. Because I don't want to disconnect myself even for one moment from Hashem. It's another way of looking at things. It has nothing to do with me, what I'm going to suffer, I'm attached to Hashem. And if I'm attached wholeheartedly, why would I want to do something? It's just like a man that is traveling and he is seduced by another woman. Oh, I don't want to cheat because I'm going to get caught. And I don't know what my wife's going to do. Maybe she'll divorce me. No. I don't want to cheat because I don't want to be disconnected from my wife and my family. That's the true way of looking at things. And that's why when somebody came to see the Rebbe Rashab and he said that he has different thoughts, and many rabbis gave him sgulot, tricks, to be able to get rid of his thoughts, he said, in Chabad we don't give tricks. If the head is filled, just like it says, Aborek en bomayim, if the pit is empty of water, if it's empty of water, it's going to be filled with snakes and scorpions. And the way to really fill the mind, if in other yeshivot they can only teach musar, which is basically different concepts of morality, for half an hour, that's the only thing. Of course, because you're not involving the sechel the way you're involving it in the Talmud. But when you're involving your mind in godliness, the way you involve it in the Talmud, in that depth, then you can learn it for 4 hours. And it can transform your mind and fill it in a way that you're tamim. You're wholesome, not only wholesome in the revealed aspect of Torah, in the practice, but you are wholesome in your connection to Hashem. And that is something that's important. And that is the power that's going to lead us to the Geulah. To not only be superficial, but to be fully present. And fully present means with your soul, your mind, your heart, your faith, every part of your being, every part of your fiber.